Part 1 of 3, in the heart of a quiet college town on the outskirts of Boston, darkness had claimed the light of a promising young life. Marina Johnson, a bright and determined university student, was found lifeless deep within a shadowy forest. Her death a tragic jolt to a community that prided itself on safety and integrity. The investigation that followed would reveal not only the brutality of her final moments, but also a twisted undercurrent of desire, betrayal, and secrets that seemed to lurk behind familiar faces. The first murmur of suspicion came when investigators discovered that shortly before her untimely death, Marina had shared a seemingly ordinary lunch at a cozy, out-of-the-way cafe, a quaint establishment where chatter and clinking cutlery once masked the brewing storm. It wasn't long before investigators uncovered that Marina had sat down with none other than Professor Robert Jackson, a respected yet controversial figure at the local university whose reputation was marred by scandalous rumors. Known among students for his inappropriate entanglements and questionable ethics, whispers had long circulated through the campus corridors that the professor had entangled himself with several of his female students. Yet Marina had defiantly chosen a different path. She was deeply involved with a young man whose protective feelings would soon add another layer of complexity to the case. Beyond the polished veneer of academia and quaint public spaces, a cipher of clues began to emerge. The list of persons involved in the unfolding drama grew steadily. Alongside Marina's mysterious death, attention turned toward a cast of figures connected by their proximity to both the cafe and the campus. There was Samantha Brooks, the observant barmaid at the cafe, whose fleeting glances and measured silences hinted at more than mere service. Dan Miller, the amiable waiter with a hidden intensity that belied his charming smile. Elena Simmons, Marina's college roommate, whose loyalty might have been masking a secret protection of certain influential figures. And Evan Douglas, a fellow student whose own connection to Marina suggested complex, perhaps dangerous undercurrents beneath campus life. As investigators combed the scene, details began to sharpen like shards of broken glass. A simple garden shovel that delivered a fatal blow left behind a chilling signature. A pair of parallel marks etched upon the back of Marina's head. A haunting echo of precision that pointed beyond a mere crime of passion. Along with this brutal evidence, a restaurant receipt and, even more curiously, a solitary toothpick lay abandoned at the gruesome setting, each element whispering clues meant to mislead, or perhaps to illuminate hidden truths. The stage was set, and as the whispers of secrets grew louder, a tangled web began to form. Who truly stalked Marina in the woods that fateful day? And how did the intimate meeting at the cafe feed into the larger narrative of treachery? The threads of this mystery were just beginning to intertwine, painting a portrait of betrayal that reached deep into the underbelly of a once trusted community. Part 2 of 3. As the investigation deepened, the labyrinth of conflicting testimonies and red herrings began to unravel the tightly knit tapestry of lies. Among the twisted branches of suspicion was a particularly perplexing lead, one that seemed to divert attention from the true heart of the mystery. In a secluded clearing of a local state park, the lifeless body of a fellow student was discovered, brutally struck by a blunt instrument, a garden shovel of all things. The weapon left behind an eerie signature, two parallel lines, crisply etched at the base of the skull, an indelible mark that sent shivers down the spine of every investigator who examined it. Alongside these ominous indications, curious evidence in the form of a cafe receipt and a discarded toothpick appeared at the scene. Items that whispered of a hasty escape and a desperately planted puzzle meant to mislead. It was in moments such as these that the focus shifted back to the enigmatic Professor Robert Jackson. Not only had he been the last known person to have lunch with Marina at the quaint roadside diner, but lingering whispers on campus also linked him to a clandestine series of questionable study sessions with his female students. Sessions that blurred the lines between professional authority and personal indulgence. According to a close friend of Marina's, a brave soul who recalled Marina confiding about being shadowed by a mysterious presence, the professor's reputation was nothing short of controversial. Meanwhile, a distressed young man, deeply smitten with Marina and driven by desperation, painted a picture of a professor who exploited his authority to dole out academic favors in exchange for fleeting moments of intimacy. Yet the civilized facade of the professor was crumbling under the weight of mounting evidence. Complicating matters further, there emerged an unexpected alliance of alibis, meticulously constructed by none other than Elena Simmons, Marina's dormitory roommate, who, in a bid to protect her secret liaison with Professor Jackson, staunchly defended him. She insisted that he was with her on that fateful afternoon, an account thrown into sharp relief when the cafe receipts and eyewitness recollections clashed decisively with her narrative. Meanwhile, whispers about the ever-watchful Dan Miller, the affable waiter with a disarming smile, hinted at a more obsessive, darker motive lurking behind his friendly demeanor. Investigators began to piece together that Dan had harbored an intense, clandestine passion for Marina, a passion that seemed to border on obsession. Surveillance records and secret interviews suggested that Dan's quiet wandering through Marina's dorm and his seemingly innocent glances masked a determination that had grown dangerously invasive. These unsettling revelations cast a long shadow over the quiet town, as each new clue deepened the mystery surrounding Marina's tragic fate. The precise nature of the injuries found on Marina's wrist, a subtle yet damning indication that pointed to the waiter's personal possessions, a double ring unique in its design, further implicated Dan and hinted at a meticulous orchestration designed to place blame on the professor. As investigators reassembled the scattered pieces of evidence, the narrative began to shift dramatically. The carefully planted toothpick at the crime scene, it turned out, was a calculated move by someone desperate to deflect suspicion. With each passing moment, the truth beckoned quietly from behind layers of deceit, raising the unsettling question, was the esteemed professor merely a convenient target in a game of misdirection, or was a deeper, more sinister force at work, driven by jealousy and unrequited love? Part 3 of 3, in a final twist that left the entire community reeling, the truth began to solidify around one man whose secret obsession had festered behind a courteous smile. As investigators meticulously retraced Marina Johnson's final hours, one damning piece of evidence emerged: the peculiar bruises on her delicate wrist, unmistakably linked to a double ring worn only by Dan Miller, the amiable waiter. Every clue conspired to reveal that Dan's intense, unspoken passion for Marina had grown into a dangerous fixation. It was Dan who had trailed her from the familiar comforts of the cafe, lured her into the secluded forest, and then, with a precision that belied his quiet exterior, launched his vicious attack. In a calculated effort to deflect the finger of blame, Dan had planted the solitary toothpick at the scene, a lure meant to tie the professor, Robert Jackson, to his crime. This ploy, however, only served to peel back another layer of deception. As the investigation pressed forward, witnesses recalled Dan's furtive glances and unsettling presence, and forensic analysis confirmed that the subtle marks left on Marina's skin were not random. They were the trademark of an assailant marked by a personal token that belonged solely to him. Throughout the tangled web of lies spun by those desperate to obscure their misdeeds, the narrative now pointed unerringly to the waiter, the man who had once seemed nothing more than a benign presence in the background of everyday life. The professor's alibis, the roommate's desperate defense, and even the furtive glances of acquaintances all culminated in an undeniable revelation. Jealousy and unrequited infatuation had driven Dan Miller to commit an act of unforgivable violence. As the dark truth emerged from a labyrinth of false leads and carefully staged scenes, one question lingers, echoing in the haunted silence of the forest and in the minds of those who yearn for justice. When passion turns deadly, are we ever truly able to unmask the secret obsessions that drive ordinary men to commit extraordinary crimes? Let this chilling mystery become both a cautionary tale and an invitation for you to delve deeper. Subscribe, like, and join us as we continue to explore the shadowy corridors of betrayal, where every revelation keeps us questioning what lurks beneath the surface of our everyday world.